Okay, we're live. That's awesome. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. This is Real, Raw, and Relevant, where entrepreneurs share their experience, their expertise, and their inspiration to help you really build a business and a life that you love. So I'm Bennett of Renegade Branding, and I'm here today with Diane Halfman of SpaLife. Hi, Diane.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have you today because we were just discussing off camera a little bit. 2017 has been quite a wild ride for everyone, with the politics and business and personal lives. And I know for myself, it's been, this Christmas has been extremely challenging with family. And, my mother is getting older, and so she's getting ready to transition, leave the planet. And, you think it's not a big deal until it's a really big deal. So I'm really grateful to have you today. And, I'm going to just read your bio really quick here that you supplied for me, which is awesome. And then I'll tell people a little bit about who I think you really are. For me, who you are. So Diane Halfman is a celebrity speaker, philanthropist, and international premier expert in the science and psychology of SpaLife. And, we're discussing SpaLife is actually a way of being, what you bring to every aspect of your life, not just like laying on the beach or getting a facial, but it's actually an entire environment in which you live and thrive. And Diane is an expert in helping women entrepreneurs really clear away the clutter and the stuff that is in the way between their heart's desire, their soul, and their business and their personal life. So everything really, it's like you can have it all. It's freaking awesome. Right? So Diane's credentials are really diverse. She's got this incredible background that she's going to share with you guys. And I'm always amazed that you were a police officer. I just find that. Although, the day that you gave me a big hug and held me, I was so touched because I really felt the depth of how much you care for people.
Thank you.
And I know that in that line of work, there's a deep caring for people. She's also an Ultimate Game of Life certified coach. I'm like, cool. I like ultimate games. Is that like extreme spa? It's the only way to do stuff, right? Ultimate Life certified coach, a master's degree in human resource management. And then all of this really enables Diane to kind of, cut through the facades of what keep people in overwhelm and separate from their greatness. And so I'm so honored and pleased to have you, Diane. And I know that you do a lot of philanthropic work and you give 10% of your earnings back to women and children's organizations. And I think, we're in a time in our history where we all need to consider how giving back in some way. It doesn't have to be specific tithing. It can be just as simple as, helping your neighbors out. But anyway, hi, Diane.
Hi, Anne. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I'm so excited. So I know we were discussing a little bit about the SpaLife, but do you want to tell us kind of your take on what SpaLife is all about?
Yeah, for me, really, SpaLife is how you feel in your life, because we've all experienced when you walk into a spa and you just have that, like you can just leave the world behind, and just, it's how you feel, right? And sometimes we feel like we can only have that experience when we walk in the spa, and it's for like a couple hours. We're stepping outside of our life. One of the things I love about SpaLife and creating it is something that we can have every day. And that's what we want to create. We want to create the environments and the experience of our life so that we have more of those moments. Because, when it comes down to it, it's how we feel and we experience our life and our relationships and who's in it is really what matters.
Mm-hmm. And I think ultimately, as most entrepreneurs start to realize after they're in business for a while, it's like, okay, I can't sustain this kind of hustle and grind and hustle and grind. And, you know, I'm fond of saying there's the 15 pounds of entrepreneurial overwhelm that goes on your body, in your life, you know, the clutter and the different things that occur, because we're always putting out fires and trying to stay as organized as possible. But for me, I know it's always, it's a practice.
It is a practice. Absolutely.
Definitely a practice.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how you decided to move from that interesting, crazy ass career of being a police officer to this idea of the SpaLife.
Well, you know, it's funny. I actually now have a symbol that actually reflects it. Carrie actually had this necklace made for me. And those of you that can kind of see what it looks like, it is a heart on top. And then there's a mirror image that's like an upside down reflection version of the heart. And where the heart actually intersects in the middle creates a diamond. And there's actually a black diamond there, because you think about black diamond on a slope is the most challenging. And also black diamond is the hardest stone in the world. And we all have to go through challenges in our life. And it's how we go through those. It's how we, you know, end up, you know, really looking at the totality of our life and how it reflects how we want to live. The bottom upside down part of the heart really represents where I was in my life with the police department, where, you know, I was dealing with 911 every day. I was, you know, whether it was a gang shooting or a family or, you know, blood or death or despair. I was going through my own divorce. I mean, there was just so much heaviness in my life that was going on. And I had to put up the thought. I mean, how many of you guys have had to do that, where it's like, you got to show up and, you know, you call the police, you got to show up strong and handle and take care of business. And I couldn't share the things that were happening behind the scenes and, you know, with my own family and, you know, really being able to step into that. And so I wear this as a symbol to be able to show people that, you know, we all have stuff that happens, but then it's what are the things that we do in our life? What are the structures and the environment and the extreme self-care that I know we're going to talk about that allows us to transcend above that, to move through those hard times, to then go into the upper part of the heart where we can actually, you know, create legacy and have laughter and friendships and have a positive outlook on life. I mean, we choose how we experience life, and it can either be dwelling in those parts that are hard and challenging, or we can choose to take them as experiences and rise above it and choose to design our life that really actually propels us forward.
Right. I think it was Einstein that said something about you can either see the world as a hostile world or as a supportive world. And I think, you know, it's obviously life is going to keep on lifing and doing what it does.
Yes.
And it's how we interpret it and how we dance with it and how we bring, you know, our hearts to our businesses and to the situations that really makes a big difference for people.
Right.
You know, I love this idea that you're talking about, clutter to drama ratio.
Yes.
I was looking around my house this morning. And I'm like, okay, I know I just cleaned that part. You know, and I told you I was all excited. I called up, I cleaned up my garage.
Yes.
And I'm giving my different clothes and things away for Christmas. I haven't been buying anything. Thank God. Because I have so much stuff. But what is this thing, clutter to drama ratio?
Oh, wow. So I actually coined that term when I was with the police department, that I found that when I go to a home, and I've been in thousands of homes in our calls, was that the homes that had the most drama, that actually had the police show up and had to do something, had the most clutter in it. There was so much chaos happening in the environment that was happening that it actually created drama in their life. And I believe that there is a direct relationship to the clutter and things that we have in our space to the amount of drama that we have and that we experience. I mean, some of you, this Christmas time is a perfect example to really look around, like when people opening presents and they've got family and there's things and there's stuff everywhere, not only your stuff, but everyone else's stuff, it tends to trigger a little bit of drama, you know, where you may be a little bit short, you're maybe not as present, and it allows us to really look at how our space influences us. And because the reverse is true as well. Notice how if you just clear a space on your desk, you just put some things away, you're allowing yourself to have more space, you can breathe better, and you can actually have more clarity. So it's really important to know how your environment actually influences you.
You know, I think it's something that I've really noticed, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs, and myself included, with ADHD, you know, you want to have an environment that supports your focus.
Yes.
And I have a tendency myself to get frustrated when I can't find something, or I'm not sure where something is, or any of that kind of stuff. So the more I can organize my space, or even as I was looking for something the other day, I was like, oh, there's that little thing that I was missing. You know, it's kind of funny to just go through the cupboards and kind of see what's there.
Right.
It's fascinating.
Right.
So, you know, a lot of us have been taught and we've been raised to kind of like power through something, or muscle through something, or push through something. And in my experience, you know, willpower takes you so far. You know, is there something that you think is more powerful that we can tap into?
Absolutely. Your environment. I mean, your environment is the most powerful thing that will actually move you through your experience. And the perfect example, I mean, as we're coming up on the new year, people are going to have all kinds of New Year's resolutions, and they're going to set themselves up to have, like, they think that the willpower will push them through. Well, if willpower alone would do it, you wouldn't have so many people have resolutions that are dropping off like within the first couple weeks after they've done it, because they're relying on willpower. And then when they fail at it, or they don't do as they expected, then they feel bad and they have shame and they have all these things that come up for them. So, you know, we're going to share about how you can get some of those tips there. And I'm going to have you, you know, have my SpaLife tips around that. But just looking at, for just an example, so you can see the difference between willpower and environment, I like to use my cupcake example. So as an entrepreneur, you're working at home and you got a cupcake sitting on the counter. It's this 1,000-calorie cupcake, and you bought it for, you know, maybe you were just going to have a taste, or you bought it for somebody else, but it's in your environment. Well, if you say, for my willpower, I'm not going to eat that cupcake, or I'm just going to have a bite of it, or, you know, whatever story that we say that we're going to have the willpower to not eat it, because we know eating the whole thing is not going to support our health goals that we had. Well, you walk past that cupcake all day long, and eventually you're going to either be hungry, stressed, there's nothing else to eat, and it's there in your environment. So you're going to eat it, right? I mean, it's there. Right? You can have all the best willpower in the world, and you're not going to be able to resist it because it's there, right? So we have to be super conscious about what is in our environment that is influencing us versus the things that we say that we want versus what's actually there that is going to support us. Now, I always say that, you know, this doesn't mean that you can never have a cupcake. I just say, don't keep it in your environment. Don't keep it there. I call it sleeping with the enemy. Like, don't have it in the space where it's influencing you. Make it more challenging, where you actually get in your car, you have to drive to a place, have the best cupcake in the world, enjoy it out there. But in your inner sanctum, in your sanctuary, in the spa life that you're created for yourself, you don't want to have those things that are tempting you all day long that are affecting you. And that's just one area with food. Everything in our space speaks to us. It has an energy. It actually influences us. So the environment that we create, the things that we visually look at, it impacts us every day, all day.
Yeah, I think that's great to really notice what's in the environment. Is it something that you enjoy looking at, or you enjoy being around? Or is it something that you look at and you go, you know, or you block it? Some people are like very interesting with their visuals. They block stuff out. Right. I am not one of those kind of people. I'm super, super visual. So I think it's interesting to, you know, somebody will go, oh yeah, I didn't notice there's a whole pile of books over there or a whole pile of clothes over there or whatever happens. You know, when you work at home, it's like there's always, it's seemingly from my point of view, there's always dishes in the sink. So I'm like, I bought myself a dishwasher so I could just put them inside there.
Nice.
Don't have to look at them. I know that you help women really get a hold of and go through dismantling, if you will, overwhelm and in their space. Do you have some tips for people around how to begin to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first tip seems so simple. And, you know, I think as particularly women entrepreneurs, I mean, we think that maybe something needs to be more overcomplicated, or, I mean, we're so highly educated and we support and serve people all day long that we sometimes don't forget what we know. Right? We know the things that actually can support us and to help us, but we don't actually do it. So it's one thing to have the knowledge, and then there's the actual practice of doing the things that we know will support us. We do it for everybody else, right? But we don't necessarily step back and do it to ourselves. So this is where we talk about having extreme self-care. And I've had a lot of conversations this week even about extreme self-care, because on first blush, it may feel selfish. It may feel like if I'm like living a life where I have extreme self-care, it may have an element of being selfish. However, it is really the direct opposite of that. When we really take care of ourselves at the extreme level, it is the most selfless thing that we can do, because we have to take care of ourselves. It's that, you know, old adage about putting the oxygen mask on yourself first to save yourself, because you can't save anyone else. You can't serve anyone else. You can't do your bigger mission if you are not taking care of yourself. It may be for a while, but notice how when you push, and then if you stop, you end up getting sick, right? Because you've had all this thing where you've not taken care of yourself. It's going to happen at some point. You have to reset yourself. You have to be able to give that care to yourself, or you can't help other people long term. So it's actually a service, not only to yourself, but to other people. When you take care of yourself, when you give yourself permission to actually have that deep caring, that you are actually able to give more in the world, to step deeper into your purpose, and to give more frequently. So extreme self-care is a necessity, not a luxury.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, most of the entrepreneurs I know, most of the creatives I know, I call it, they have a switch. It's all the way on and all the way off.
Yes.
So it's like they can like go, don't sleep, run around, do all this stuff, and then it catches up with them, and then they're on the horizontal, you know, hanging out. And it's seemingly, you know, building a business or even building the life that you want is really a marathon. And I know for myself, I'm the kind of person, I'm kind of a quick start type of person, and it's been challenging to learn to do things over and over and over, and do the small things over and over and over that really build what I want in my life and my business. So I know that you're going to be giving everybody this awesome life reset quiz, which is totally cool, so they can see, you know, where they are and where they can put themselves back on track. But do you want to give us some tips on, you know, you said something earlier that was really important, that we actually know what to do, but we don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm laughing at myself, right?
Right.
Because I'm the kind of person who collects a tremendous amount of knowledge, you know, and I'm always studying and trying to be up on all the latest, greatest, whatever. And then sometimes I turn around, I look at my life, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can tell other people, you know, how to market their business or how to brand or whatever. We were kind of talking about that. And I'm not doing the things that I know that I need to do. Is there, is there kind of, you know, I always wish there was like a blue pill or something I could just take. So that, we just take the blue pill and then everything will be worked out. But are there some kind of do you have any type of a tip or some advice around when you notice you're not doing what it is you need to do? Is there something that I can do, or that people can do to move themselves forward without, I know like a lot of it for me is when I start to beat myself up, that will just keep it in place.
Right. Right. Yeah, we don't want to get to the point where that happens. And I mean, just to answer your first part, so when people are asking about like how they can take the quiz and how they can get my guide and how these things, if you just put in the comments SpaLife, then we will get that to you. So if you put in the comments SpaLife, we will get those things, because obviously we don't have time to go through, you know, like all the different steps to have that. But I want you guys to be able to have, you know, the environment and the awareness. I mean, the part about the quiz is just having awareness, because a lot of times when we're just running through life, we forget to take care of ourselves. It's like when people are working long hours and they forget to eat, right? It's the same thing where it's like we forget to take care of ourselves if we don't have the habits and structures in place that make that happen. So the simple way to stay out of overwhelm is to, one, not overschedule. And I know that's easier said than done, but what happens is that we put, you know, this idea in our head that we're going to have this to-do list where we're going to do like 20 things in a day. We know we're not going to get 20 things done in a day. So why set yourself up? We want to set ourselves up to win, right? I mean, I love you put it at 3. Yes, 3 would be amazing. If you did 3 things a day, you would be a rock star. You would actually do the things that would move you forward, and you'd have more, you know, joy in your life. You'd have more balance in your life. I mean, I know one of the things that as entrepreneurs as well is, and I've had to really work this out for myself, is to actually have, you know, stop points to business. Because when we work from home, we tend to just keep going because we want to serve the people that we love. So I've had to put some structures in place for myself to actually have, you know, this is where the stop point happens. So how you create your environment and your life actually helps support you in living that. So an example is I used to get up and go to the gym in the morning. And I love that routine. But what I started to do now is I found out that they have a 6 p.m. class. So by me having a 6 p.m. class, it makes me get out of my house and out of my environment into a different environment so I can switch gears, right? Because sometimes I could say like, okay, I'm stopping at this time. But I mean, you guys, how many of you gone over the time that you set for yourself because you're on a roll and things are happening and, you know, you just keep going, right? So if you have some natural stops where it actually allows you to get up and move and do something in a different place, it's better if you leave your house. I mean, I've got some of my clients, I've got them scheduled where you have an alarm go off and now you go for a walk around the block. It's like you're getting out of the environment. So you want to build things that shift you looking things at a different way. And so one of the big things too, when you're feeling overwhelmed, is to, one, notice it. And you notice it because you're feeling anxious. You're feeling like you got so many things going on. You can't really focus on one thing. That's when you step back, you take that deep breath, and you just ask yourself, what's the most important thing I can do in the moment? And just stay focused on that. Us staying present is really the best gift that we can have, is stay present in the moment and not be worrying about things that happened yesterday or things that are happening in the next couple of hours. If we just stay focused in the moment and complete the thing that's in front of us and have more completions, we actually will have more satisfaction.
I have this. Yeah, it's great. I have this thing on my computer. I'm hearing feedback. Or it's just me? Okay.
I'm good.
It says one completed task will make you money, you know. And for me, I always have, when I start a task, I have to turn off my phone. I have to not answer my door if somebody stops by or I'm getting a package from Amazon or whatever. I have to just sit there and squirm around a bit sometimes. But once I get deeply involved in the thing I'm writing or whatever I'm doing, to work it all the way through to the end is where I start to feel a lot calmer about what I'm doing. It brings a lot of peace, right? And a lot of sense of, I don't know if self-esteem is the right word, but a sense of satisfaction of just completing the one thing all the way through. And I know women a lot of times think, oh, I'm going to multitask everything. And I've read a lot about it. I study the brain, right? How the brain actually works. And you really can't multitask.
No.
You can maybe skip your space in between each thing could shorten. I heard it's about 15 minutes for most people to move from one activity to the next activity.
Right.
So you're losing a lot of time actually when you're not just following the thing all the way through.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to me, the brain and how it works, even in a sense of sitting down and focusing on something. I've heard different things. You might have an opinion about this too, Diane. I've heard 30-minute increments. I've heard 90-minute increments. I'm not really sure. I know when I sit down, it's usually short, but then if I really get involved in something, I'm like hyper-focused.
Right.
So I can do a 90-minute.
Yeah. You know, it varies person to person. I mean, there's some people where, you know, if they did 20 minutes straight, they would be winning, right? There's some people that like to have bigger blocks, like 2 to 3 hours. So one of the things is I think that you find out what is your like focus time that works for you and just structure that to have it support you. So one of the things when you look at your schedule, like I set up like 2 3-hour blocks for myself. And so I'll have a 3-hour block in the morning, I'll have a lunch, and then I'll have another 3-hour block. But within that time, every 50 minutes, you know, I'll have like an alarm go off because then you need to get up. We spend way too much time sitting in front of a computer. It affects our body, it affects our focus. And sometimes we feel like if we power through more, that we'll get more done. Actually, the reverse is true. We actually stall out at a certain amount of time where we cannot actually get more done. So moving, getting a different perspective, you definitely will always come back and be able to move much more quickly. So to really take advantage of the structures that support yourself, I like, you know, we look at the marathon of life of just like long term, but there's many sprints in between that actually support us along the way. So we want to use a little bit of both, you know, in winning that race is to be able to have sprinting and the marathon to actually look at it. And I look at the totality of the picture as the marathon. We're winning the long race, but many sprints in between is how things get done.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like I was saying, I was just writing introduction because I had 5 minutes. I had 15 minutes. When I have a smaller amount of time and I'm just like, okay, I'm going to sit down and do this, I can't resist or procrastinate on something because it's like, oh, I have 20 minutes. Okay, boom, let me write this thing. Or I've got to, you know, make this phone call. Or I need to do this one thing in a short amount of time. It seems like if you give yourself, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I write for hours and hours and hours and hours. Yeah. And I'm like, really, guys? You're just like, boom. Well, part of it is, you know, going back over it and wanting to, I mean, writing is a process and I do look back over my stuff, but sometimes it's just like the first time is the best time and everything else becomes nitpicking, I guess.
Right. Well, you know, I think as humans, we fill to capacity whatever's given to us, right? So whether that's our space, you know, if you get a bigger house, you tend to fill it with more stuff. You know, you give yourself more time to write, you're going to write more things. You know, it's like, you give yourself the allocated time and you will fill it. And so I think it's important to say, you know what is the ideal amount of time I have for a project? Give yourself that amount of time and then be satisfied with the completion at that point. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can always do more and tweak and shift and do things later, but being done with something actually will give you some satisfaction versus having all the open loops of always having all these things you have to circle back around with. So really having closure on certain things will give you better peace of mind. It'll actually allow you to move on to something else. You know, sometimes you just stay in something too long and you look at it too long. It just builds the overwhelm and it's just so unnecessary. And so really and that can be part of the fun and excitement. Go, okay, I've got 20 minutes to get this done. You turn on, you get it done and it's done. Like you're over it. It's over, you know, maybe you're giving yourself an extra 10 minutes or something, but to give yourself another like 3 hours, it's like, are you getting 3 hours more of something being that much more amazing? Or are you following your instincts of you got it right and just go with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really, some of it is about trusting yourself,
Yes.
I think. You know, we just have a couple more minutes, and I wanted to just ask you, you know, I know that you work with a lot of successful women entrepreneurs that are in relationships, and I know that you're in a really great relationship, and it's always struck me as something I want, but also, you know, the balancing, you know, like we were talking about, shifting gears and being able to be with your partner, and give and receive in an intimate way after under all the serving other people all day long. Do you have any tips or any advice for people that are you know, challenged by that shifting gear kind of thing?
Right, right. Well, I think it comes down to, again, creating the container that we are at choice with our life. I mean, especially this time of year when people feel like everything's busy and I don't have time, and there's just all this chat around that. We sometimes forget, again, the obvious, the things that we know, is that we actually have control over our time. We actually get to choose how we get to live our life. And so when, you know, if you look at your values and you want to have that be the guiding light, if you will, of how you choose what you do and don't do in your life. So if you say that it is one of your high values, that you value relationship, that who it is that you want to be in relationship, whether it's your, you know, intimate partner, or it's your close friends, or it's your family, whatever those relationships are, if you say that that's a big value of yours, the reflection of our values is in how we spend our life. And that is your calendar. That is, you know, you look at your calendar and that is your life. And some people look at it and go, oh my God, those are all these things I have to do, not necessarily what I like to do or I want to do. Well, you can change that, and in an instant. So how you can really support your relationship is to actually put something in the calendar that says, you know what, this is the time that I'm honoring us being together. Not only even for children to say, hey, we're going to have a staycation with the family and we're going to go on a picnic, and it's in the calendar. Kids love to have something to look forward to. Adults like to have something to look forward to. When we're working really hard and we're focusing, sometimes just having that thing on the calendar is what allows us to really focus and really show us the reason of what we're doing. So for me, what I like to do is, you know, have an actual end time to my day, to my work day, but allow yourself transition. You know, I like to have 30 minutes where I like to, you know, put things back where they are, you know, have some closure on the day, and then be able to shift gears, whether it's having a cup of tea or going out for a walk or doing something that shifts my energy from one activity into another so that I can do this. I think so often we expect that, like, work ends here and now you go into relationship and then you're in relationship mode. You haven't caught up yet. You're not really there yet. And so you want to give yourself that space. I mean, sometimes it's maybe even just changing clothes, you know, or anything.
I take a shower sometimes.
Energy, right? Taking a shower is a great way to be able to do that. But shifting the energy of how we're experiencing our life so that we can go into doing something different really allows us to have that relationship with people and show up in a different way. But I think one of the best ways that you honor the relationships in your life is to put them on calendar and to let them know, especially for kids, to be like, you know what, I have to focus on this right now. But this is your time because you were so special to me. I've created this time for us to be together. I mean, nothing says I love you more than I'm giving you my time.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome. So I want to thank you so much for, you know, bringing your wisdom and your expertise for us today to experience, and also that you're giving this really awesome little life reset quiz, which is really great. I think there's also a link down, so if anybody wants that, or you can put SpaLife, and Diane will come back and check on you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it's so helpful for us, for people to put in the comments, like, where are you having challenges in this? You know, we will come around and answer any of your questions. Put in the comment, you know, if you want to have the free resources we're talking about, you can click on the link or just put in SpaLife and I'll make sure that you get that. But, you know, we want you, especially in this time of year where people can feel overwhelmed and they're not taking care of themselves and they're not creating that SpaLife. You know, what are you doing to support yourself? Like, what do you need? And we want to give you those resources. And I just so appreciate you having this conversation with people where, you know, you get so caught up in life, and to have these real conversations around what are some of the simple tools to support each other. You know, you're doing a service.
Thank you. I know it's really great. I'm actually going to the salt room to do a little salt therapy right now, just for respiratory and kind of, you know, I've overeaten and overdrank and over everything over the holidays. So just starting to get things back into place and, of course, declutter. The continuing saga of decluttering and organizing. But I want to thank you so much, Diane, for being a guest today. And, you know, many thanks. I so honor our friendship, and what you bring to the world is really amazing. So I know that people are going to get a ton out of the interview, and I'm really excited.
Thanks for having me, Anne. Love you so much.
I love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.